Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Ellen Wallace. Today, we got an interesting issue for you guys. I'm going to release it during kind of our usual Saturday morning cadence, which I think is going to be the third. But this one's going to be a little interesting because it's just 5 issues, and recording this way in the past. This is going to be like the day before we go out on our trip. So this is all the way back in December 27th here. So it's already going to be New Year's at this point, but I'll be down in Florida and won't be able to make it back up in time to record one. And so I wanted to at least have something so that way, it's out there, we're consistent. And then, in case those folks, they want to hear something while they're doing chores and getting ready to conquer all those New Year's resolutions, boom, they already have it ready to go. So yeah, just 5 books, a couple of backlogs, and then a few books that I was able to get to for the polls that happened on Christmas Eve. So hope you guys are having a great holiday season as things are kind of wrapping up here. You had a good New Year and just ready to go for the beginning of 2026. So with that, I think we'll just go ahead and jump right into the polls for this week. And so if I flip over, again, it's kind of an interesting one because I haven't picked up these books, but just a brief reminder of what I will be getting to eventually. It's probably not going to be for the Omega that comes out for this week, but it'll probably be for the following issue, which will be, I think, issue number 63. That's Saturday. But we have the Tin Can Society issue number 9, Ultimate Endgame number 1, and then the Ultimates number 19. So just 3. And I was asking the manager at the shop, and he was like, yeah. I was like, why are so few books coming out this week, next week, so on and so forth. And it's like, yeah, DC and Marvel, they know people, they step back a lot on their discretionary spending, of course, after Christmas, once they spent all their money that they can on gifts. And then once you get into the new year as well, a lot of people want to pull back on different hobbies and things like that and try to be better with their spending, so on and so forth. So they tend to do that intentionally, and you'll see it that way for the polls for the following week as well. But then things kind of get back to normal by the time you get to February. So if the next couple of weeks are a little lighter, that would be the reason why. But other than that, I think we can just go ahead and then jump into our reviews, which again are some kind of different titles for this week. So let's go ahead and jump into those reviews. So in total, it is 5, like I mentioned. We're going to finish up Kingdom Riders, which is one of our backlog books, but I finally completed that one as of recording. Then we get into a couple from the week of Christmas Eve, those polls. So we have Skinbreaker, issue number 4, The Rocketfellers, issue number 11, and then Justice League Unlimited, issue number 14. And then last but not least, as we continue to work our way through Saga, we're going to be talking about issue number 40. So those will be the 5. Again, should be a pretty short and sweet episode, but just wanted to put together something for you. If this is your first time jumping in, welcome. Appreciate you stopping by. Just so you're aware, I do spoil these books, so just kind of keep that in mind. Try to catch you up on where things are at thus far for the story. I'll let you know whether or not this is a good one to jump into, that more relates to the individual issues. I'll let you know my rating in League, and then League's rating as well. And then for the video folks, I go ahead and show off some of the artwork from this overhead camera. So that is going to be the kind of the cadence and the style. Those books that I read will be reviewed in that order. Kingdom Riders, so finally completed it. So I gave it a 4. On League, there is no review, even after I put mine up. I think League needs a total of 5 reviews before they start to publish what the average is, and that's probably so, one review doesn't completely tank it. So maybe there are some folks that have read it, but I mean, I did look it up afterwards because of how it ended, and it for sure is categorized as like a young kids book. So I was like, okay, well, they're probably not using this website as of yet. Probably get to the point when you're a teenager or above and you actually start using this. So maybe just not really for that target demographic. But even so, I enjoyed it. It was a pretty cool story, and I was so curious. I was like, is there plans for a sequel? Because this came out back in May of 2024. So I gave it a 4 overall. Kingdom Riders, just to catch you up on really the entire story. It is about this fantasy kingdom world. It's kind of a serfdom style, or think of feudal system where you have lords and then you have different serfs and servants. And so Kayla is our main character. Mal is kind of like our side character. They're trying to buy their way out of debt. Mal, in particular, was due to have her released and have her debt paid, but an ox was killed, and so now they had to pay for that debt. Kayla decides to step up and enter this race. So this big race throughout the kingdom, it's like the biggest event that happens there. And Kayla thinks that she's like naive enough to go ahead and enter and then qualify. It's mostly surrounded with the qualifier. And so the Lord, he kind of laughs it off, but he's like, hey, Kayla says, if you bet on it and you bet on me, you're going to win all the money back that you would get for releasing Maul and then pay back your ox and some. And if you lose from everything that you bet, I will then, owe all the debt for Mal, and she'll basically be indebted for the rest of her life. So the Lord agreed. Kayla joins the race. The race is super dangerous, but Kayla has a bunch of experience of going out off of like the farm or the village or whatever the Lord that she kind of belongs to, and finding all these different mystical items. So she uses those skills in this race, and she's actually the best to ever finish and qualify in this kind of section of the kingdoms in the qualifier history. She came very, very close to finishing. She did finish, and nobody else has finished before, but she came very, very close to like beating the lead kind of like ghost that guides them through the different trail. So she qualifies. Then the Lord looks to renege on the deal, but you had some high officials there who were hearing the whole kind of kerfuffle. They intervene, and they say the Lord has to honor the deal. And then there's another guy there who ends up being a sponsor of sorts for the actual race. So this is the qualifier, then we have the actual race. And he wants to take on Kayla and then Mal as well, who got her freedom too. And it's like, hey, we can enter you into the race, sponsor you with having, some good training, and then basically a team to kind of back you up, because I guess the way that it works for the next race is it's a team of 3 riders. So she goes, meets with her fellow riders who come from different districts, and she's starting to realize how large the kingdom actually is, because she only knew her own world. And it's a situation where you have wealthier districts than others. So think about the Hunger Games a little bit. She was towards the lower districts, and in the higher districts, like, people train for this their whole lives. It's a huge honor to be selected and to win this race, even though it's extraordinarily dangerous and like people die. And so, they're making their final preparations. They go, they have the race. The race is very dangerous, and Kayla does a whole bunch of unconventional things where she saves some riders from being like falling into this volcano. That's where the track mostly takes place, and helping them kind of across the finish line. Her team does qualify, and even with her kind of unconventional way of saving folks, it's starting to get some notice and recognition. So that catches up to where I read. And then the ending piece is literally just like the celebration afterwards. So everyone's super happy, super satisfied. Kayla, of course, is happy with what she did. The other riders take notice, like I mentioned, but the biggest thing is the king takes notice as well. And he's really pissed off about this, right? So he's like, okay, well, this is going to bring hope to the kingdom, which is going to be problematic, of course, because, the only, biggest threat to his reign is the hope of people thinking that, anyone can kind of step up and push back against the system and have like some meaningful effect. So that's basically the end and the conclusion. I was like pretty much at the end. So I basically recapped everything. But it left it at such an open-ending conclusion, because you think about it, this was just one race. There are other races in different sections of the kingdom, and we're not quite at the final. And it looks like now we're at the point where, the king is taking notice, like, how is he going to intervene? What is he going to do to maybe hire some different people, change up the rules, make some sort of crazy adversity for Kayla to go into the next round with her team. So definitely open-ended there. I looked, there's no announcement for a second book, but if it were to ever come out, I'd definitely be interested in going ahead and picking that up. So I do recommend it, even if it is on the kiddier side. If you have, a preteen in your life that you want to get into reading, might be a great book for that. So that's Kingdom Riders. Let's go ahead and show off some of the artwork here. So it's mostly towards the final section. I'll show off a little bit of the race that you have. The best way to describe it is like Avatar: The Last Airbender. That style of art is like really the best way to describe what it looks like for the audio folks, but from the video, of course, you can see it. So here's kind of the conclusion towards the end. This is the king himself, and he's like plotting and like can't believe what all is happening, and kind of get the conclusion here as they prepare for the next round. So yeah, Kingdom Riders, again, I gave it a 4. No rating on League, but a good book overall, and I do recommend it. So next up here is going to be Skinbreaker, issue number 4. So this was a good book. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.2. I was in between a 4.5 and a 4, but I think I was definitely more leaning towards a 4 in the end, which is what I decided to go with. So if you'll recall here, we have a situation of this is a bunch of orcs that live in kind of like a tribal type of setting, and the original chief was trying to find a way to, like, how could he advance his tribe, into like the next age or a Renaissance age. He is about to be challenged by someone who wants to maintain the old ways, but he has kind of a right-hand man. The challenge to become a chief is you have to kill the previous chief. So his right-hand man doesn't want to do it, obviously. He's like, oh, there's still so much we can learn from this chief. But, he's talking with his wife and just thinking it over. But it's like, if this other guy lives, like, we're going to be 50 years in the past, basically. So he's like, screw it, I'll step in line, we'll challenge. And he defeats his own, mentor, chief, master in order to become the chief. And then that happens back, I think, in issue 2. And it fast forwards a whole bunch of years to the end of issue 2, where he is basically in the same position as to where his mentor was. So he's an old man at this point, and his time is coming up. So then we get to the point where we learn all these incredible, fantastical things that he's done. So there's these crazy wild beasts that attack, and they're getting smarter. And so rather than like hunting these beasts, and it's like a lot of effort, it requires young people who are these hunters, but it's super risky and dangerous. They're now using traps. So now anyone can go out and kill these things with ease. So incorporating technology, it's working, and it's like, helping out the society tremendously, but people are pushing back on it. Like, this is against our traditions, it shows weakness, yada, yada. And so, like I said, that this chief, he's at the point where it looks like he could be challenged, and he's towards the end of his life. And sure enough, he is challenged. And before that challenge takes place, some of these huge creatures that they've been attacking out in the wild actually attack their den. So they attack, it's super dangerous, and it looks like, their kids' lives that are in jeopardy. And the chief's trying to claim, like, this is exactly why we need to, like, set these traps, and we need to advance the technology and move forward. And then the one that gets into the actual, I guess, kind of like hut, like the main area, they were able to kill it, which is fine. But at the same time, it could have killed some other people before they got a chance to kill it. So the new guy who wants to challenge is like, well, I just protected everyone. Everyone's safe and fine. It goes to show that the old ways work. But, like, the logic there doesn't quietly tick and tie. And so at that point, then he's like, I want to challenge now for, the chief title. And you basically have to accept the challenge, right? It's like, it's an orc society. So, think in very kind of low Neanderthal, this is the way it is, and now the challenge is on. So that gets us to issue number 4. The challenge is about to take place. Our chief accepts. And he goes up, and before he goes to fight, he wants to just say his piece of, like, I'm going to challenge, but just so you're aware, these things are getting smarter. We have to make sure that we continue the traps. My son is really good with the technology piece. He can continue the traps. And he's given his whole spiel. And then the challenger's like, screw this. I didn't come to talk. I came to fight. And so he just starts attacking him. And Chief, who's still the chief, is like, please, like, I'm just trying to plead with you. And so the fight continues. And it gets to the point where it spills out of, like, the makeshift arena that they have. And the chief just goes and runs off. And he runs off almost like in a cowardice way. So the challenger chases after him. He's got most of the support of the people in the tribe behind him, so they go to chase down the chief. And the chief has, you can see in this cover here, the Skinbreaker is a sword. It's a sword in particular. It reflects on the sun. It's like kind of this coming of age ceremony for these kids, and it breaks their skin, so now that they can be, like, exposed, and they can leave the tribe and, like, go out and go hunting and things like that. And so the chief leaves the Skinbreaker sword, and he just hides. Challenger finds it. He's like, okay, I'll take it. Now that the chief doesn't have the Skinbreaker, he's not going to survive anyways. He's basically exiled, and everyone heads back. And now our chief is just out in the wild. He's old. He doesn't have any weapons. It's like, what is he going to do now type of situation. So that is issue number 4. I'd imagine his family's at risk. In the first issue, I think it was, his son his skin year after year would not break from the Skinbreaker thing, and like for your skin to break is like the huge thing. So people will like try to intentionally force it early to show that their bloodline is strength, and then that means that they should be the ones to rule, so on and so forth. And so his son, like, skin, I don't think it ever broke towards the end, if I'm trying to think back to it. And so like now they're all in jeopardy too, so it's like what's going to happen there in issue number 5. I'm sure that's going to come up, but it's great. It's a Robert Kirkman joint, and you know how much emotion you get from just the simplistic dialogue between these characters, and so much comes out in the emotion, and it just makes you think of like, okay, what are the allegories here in modern society right now? We have AI, like, is it helping, is it hurting? There's so many different kind of conflicts as you think about it, and conflicts of interest there. And so it almost makes me think this way of like, here's this tribe, extraordinarily dangerous environment, this increasingly more intelligent and aggressive adversary, and they have this technology that is going to help them to like keep them at bay, but even still the tribe doesn't want to embrace it, which I find interesting. So it's a cool book. So yeah, I gave it a 4. Let's go ahead and show off some of the artwork. Well, Lee gave it a 4.2. Artwork is excellent. The detail around the battle and the action scenes are excellent. I'd say it's more of like kind of like the details in the penciling rather than the actual color, but the color still really pops too. It's mostly like dark greens and yellows, as it's like swampy, and kind of like this crazy abandoned, covered in moss and different like fungals and decaying type of environment. It's pretty cool, so I do recommend it a lot. So that's Skinbreaker issue number 4. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.2. Not the one to jump into. Should really just start from the beginning, to be honest with you. Now, Rocketfellers, issue number 11. I was actually kind of curious. Is this the second to last one? Because it feels like it might be. Yeah, it is, which made perfect sense. I just couldn't remember if it was like to be concluded at the end or not. So the Rocketfellers, issue number 11. I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.2, and I will say it is definitely the comic of the week. Awesome book. I'd also say it's cover of the week too. It's like this school bus that crash landed off this ledge onto the ground in the middle of like a desert. It just looks pretty dope. The story thus far, and this is catching you up on basically everything, is it is the penultimate issue to this story. We got this family. They're from the future. The father, he created some sort of technology that was going to be able to potentially make it so nobody would die. But the problem is that the technology was going to get like unruly and out of hand, and it actually would have ended up destroying society. And so Roland is his name. His sister, Raina, works with and is married or engaged to the CEO of like the Amazon, the Tesla, the Nvidia, like whatever, the major corporation that is in this world. And they, of course, want to capitalize on this technology and be the ones to usher it out into the world. And it gets to the point where like these two rival companies are like fighting over it. And there's this like huge explosion, and both Raina and her husband, the CEO, nearly die over this thing. And so it gets to the point where Raina is like so incredibly pissed off and mad at Roland, she starts to hunt him, and she hunts him through time and his family in order to get their hands on this technology, to A, to save her husband, but then B, in order to, profit on this technology. So she finally made it to the time zone where Roland, his daughter, his wife, his son, and his grandfather is. Grandmother was involved, but she died early on in the very first issue. And so, healing from all of that. And like a lot of the story was just a reveal of who was pursuing them, why they're pursuing them, and you find that kind of in the middle of the book. So now we're at the point now where family has crashed into the desert. They're trying to get as much space away from Raina. Raina is still after them, and everyone starts running away except for the daughter. Daughter stops and actually meets up with Raina and starts having like a conversation with her and tries to talk her down of like, I actually want to kill your brother over all this and his whole family. And it seems like finally is going to get through to her. But the brother is like sick and tired of this BS, and it's like blames everyone for all this stuff happening. He just wants to get back to his own time zone, get, with his girlfriend and his friends. He's been tinkering on the side too. He creates kind of this makeshift Iron Man suit, and he goes and he attacks Reyna, which then allows everyone to run away. But now Reyna's again pissed off and now back into locked in mode and starts going after the family again, and then finally catches up to them. And then Roland says enough's enough. And so he meets up with Reyna. It's like, fine, I will go back to the future with you and we will go together. Now, right now, whatever technology that they use to jump to the future is like blocked for whatever reason. And so, but Roland says, through this Iron Man suit thing that my son created, we can just jump right now. But he's lying. And then there's this trick of like, if they're separated, rather than like holding each other's hand, they're separated by a certain distance, then suddenly like it's going to explode. It's going to be some negative things that happen. So he puts a little grease or a little oil onto his hands. He grabs her. They go into, jump through the future. And then sure enough, the whole thing explodes, both of them. And that's like the cliffhanger left off on. So we don't know what happened. Did both of them die? Did neither one of them die? Did just one of them? We'll have to see. So it's a crazy story, crazy book overall. There have been some highs and lows with the Rocketfellers because it did feel like some pieces were pretty kind of issues were just filler. But then once we finally got the reveal of what this is all about, then it was like just nothing but gas afterwards. So I'd say the back half is actually better than the first, I call it 5 issues. I was pretty close to dropping this, and honestly, I probably would have if I didn't, was still in the era of like just stick with the book and just write it to the end. So I'm glad that I did in the end because overall it is a recommendation, but the first bit is pretty slow, just being honest with you guys. Artwork's pretty cool. I'd say like kind of standard comic book style. It feels like it's more of a kid book, but it really is not. It's just a typical adventure, good amount of detail overall, and enjoying the hell out of it. So crazy that this one's coming to an end because it felt like this was potentially going on a lot longer. But after reading this one, I was like, oh, this is probably going to wrap up at 12, and sure enough, it is. So it's the Rocketfellers issue number 11. Again, I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.3. Then we have Ultimate Justice League, Unlimited Justice League, or Justice League Unlimited, that's what it is. Issue number 14. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.6. I was between a 3.5 and a 4, and the only saving grace I gave it a 4, I think, was the artwork was pretty good. Stories-wise, probably not worth it. We got 2 plots that are basically happening here. Our A plot is we have our heroes, and part of the issue with this book is it's a B cast of heroes because all of our main heroes are in the DCKO event where they're all fighting to try to, become the dark side equivalent with all the Omega energy. And so these are just the leftovers, and it's split up into 2 categories. The main leftovers, if you will, are going into the underworld, into the different layers of hell. And the reason is there was a pact or an accord with all the remaining villains on Earth and with hell, and like amplifying their powers. But simultaneously, all the heroes are trying to evacuate Earth because of the potential of, what if this tournament, what they're trying to do and gain this Omega energy does not it doesn't work the way that they intend it. Darkseid's just going to show up and completely destroy the planet. So it's like, okay, yes, we have a contingency of this tournament, but we can't take that chance and we need to evacuate anyways. So that's what's taking place. The team that's diving into hell is trying to find a way to stop these villains. And then the B plot is all the other like really tertiary heroes, like sea level and below. They're trying to do their best that they can to finalize the evacuation. So for the folks that are going through the rings of hell, it's 7 heroes that are remaining. They're at the place where they need to like cross the lake of death. And think of all the different mythologies. They all have like some sort of lake or river, and someone shows up in a boat and you gotta like pay a toll, and then that takes you into the afterlife or the underworld or whatever you want to call it. So this is that version of that. Everyone shows up. You have Mr. Terrific, you have Batman Beyond there, you have a version of Superman, you have Aquaman, a couple others. And Mr. Terrific, being the genius that he is like, oh, we just pay something, right, to cross the toll. And he's like giving doubloons, basically, like gold coins. And the guy's like, yeah, no, I'm not accepting that. It has to be something that's of value. And so each one of them hands off something if they have it on them, but some people don't. Like that version of Superman, he doesn't. And so what this like Grim Reaper type character takes hope away from Superman and takes a couple other things from other people. And it's like, damn, okay, so like much higher stakes for some folks, whereas like for Batman Beyond, it was like one of his bat ranks. So they go across the lake and they're talking about what they're going to do when they get to the other side, but it's not as peaceful as they anticipated. This huge serpent, of course, comes out of the water. Aquaman's time to shine. He goes in and he does his best. Seems like maybe he's not going to be able to stop him, but he does, and he completely destroys the serpent. Like it explodes. So you think all is good, but somehow, some way, Aquaman is stabbed from the back, and now we dwindle from 7 down to just 6 as they continue through the these rings of hell, if you will, all the way down to fight the big bad. So yeah, it's Neuron is who they're trying to get after. So yeah, I mean, story-wise, not great, but the art for sure does help it out. So let's go ahead and flip through some of that artwork that you can see it. It's standard comic book in a sense, but it's high action, which I enjoy, and some really good contrast in colors as well. So it's in the underworld, so a lot of black is the background, but then a lot of like neon greens and blues and purples and yellows that really help pop against the black backdrop. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's in the end what got it to a 4 for me. Otherwise, it would have been just a 3.5. And then you got a couple of previews towards the end here. So yeah, that is Justice League Unlimited issue number 14. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 3.6. And then, last but not least, for this issue is going to be Saga. Issue number 40. I gave it a 4.5. Lee gave it a 4.5 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And this issue is definitely the one where it's like, okay, we are at the point of the rising action of what is this trade mostly going to be about. So we've been stuck and marooned on this comet. Prince Robot is trying to get off. Babysitter Isabella is dead. There's a freelancer that is trying to find the whole crew, Alana, Marco, Hazel, Prince Robot, and you have this refugee soldier that's trying to find Isabella. So that catches you up to where we're at. This issue, we have Prince Robot. He's sleeping, having these horrible nightmares. You have Hazel and one of like the Marmot friends looking at like his nightmares on the television, and they're like the freaky, most disastrous things ever that a child shouldn't be watching. But sure enough, like they do anyways. And Prince Robot wakes up, scares them off. So that's fine. That's one piece. Next thing is Marco. He's looking at this war that is happening on this comet. So both sides, you know, you got the lands, you got the Moonies, they're fighting each other. And the Moonies, which are the Horned folks, they have the advantage. But he hears them calling for a retreat. And he's like, oh, that's weird. If we were winning like this any other time, because he's a former soldier, he knows, we'd be pushing the advantage. There's no way we'd be pulling back. So why is that? And, you know, he's having a conversation with one of the other Marmots, and they're trying to figure it out. The Horned refugee who's looking for Isabella, she ends up in a town, and she ends up talking to this interesting looking, like, kind of like marshmallowy, fungus-looking creature. And basically he says, yeah, they put me here to, like, have conversations with people of war so I can tell their stories. So this thing has a whole list of, like, just stories and stuff. And basically the refugee starts to talk to this thing and reveals where this comet is actually heading. And then you turn the page, it's this enormous planet, and like I should just show you, but it's like the craziest splash. It's a planet, and it looks like, you know, our planet of Saturn, but Saturn is the head on this enormous baby. So it's like a baby's head with the Saturn rings around it, but then you have this whole like baby body connected to it, and this comet is heading straight towards it. So just disaster, which is obviously why the Moonies are now leaving as well. So that takes place. The freelancer catches up and sees Marco, so boom, target acquired. He's now, because it's like two Siamese twins, they're now going to get involved. And then the craziest thing that happens at the end is Prince Robot takes Fade Away, which is like a hallucinogenic drug in this galaxy. So he takes that, and it's just him and Alana, and he's having feelings for Alana, and at first you're thinking that they're sexual, and he pulls out a gun and threatens to shoot Alana, which is insane. Now, he's high as hell, so it's like, okay, is it the fadeaway? Like, what the hell is going on? And then he basically gives this whole soliloquy. It's like, at first I thought it was like, sexual arousal that I was into, but it's not the case. What it really is that I can see how great of a mother you are and how great of a mother you will be to your next child to be born, because she's pregnant again. And then I will never be that way, of that type of father to my son. And then you turn the page and he points the gun at his own head. And then that is the cliffhanger. It's like, holy shit, what the hell is going to happen? Saga, man. Like, that is the type of like stuff that just makes you go like, man, this is continues to be some of the greatest comic book stuff ever. From a not just the storytelling aspect, but just like the constant jaw-dropping, like, holy shit, now we're going here, or I can't believe they did that. So just showing off some of the artwork, but this is where they're headed, right? So if I can show that into the camera, it's like this crazy looking baby thing upside down, and it's like the size of the planet Saturn, but it's actually like a child, and the comet is like a tiny little thing heading straight towards it. Not good at all. And then here we have Prince Robot pulling out the gun, and then boom, at the end, pointing it at himself. So what the hell is going to happen there? Great stuff. Obviously loving Saga. So with issue number 40, I'm trying to see how many are in this volume. I'd imagine I just have 2 more left here, but we'll have to see. Because usually it has like, end of chapter here, but I don't see it. 42, so just 2 more, 41 and 42. And then we'll be done with volume 7 and then on to volume 8. So yeah, that is it. Let's go ahead and recap the 5 books. Again, shorter issue here. Usually I do 10, but with vacations and stuff, it just kind of happens. And the cool thing is just a few books to catch up on from the week that this drops, and then the following week is very small as well, so like 1 Omega, and we're back up and running. So again, the 5 books we had was Kingdom Riders, excellent kind of kiddie book, just waiting to see if there's going to be a sequel or not, and learn more about Kayla in this big race. Skinbreaker issue number 4, challenge is made to our chief. The chief abandons the Skinbreaker sword, and now he's exiled from the tribe. The Rocketfellers, issue number 11. Raina has now caught up with the family. Roland turns himself in, but he blows himself up along with Raina, so we'll see what happens there. Justice League Unlimited, number 14. We have 7 heroes left, turns to 6 after Aquaman is killed, crossing the Sea of Death. And then Saga, issue number 40. Comet is heading towards this huge baby planet size thing, and Prince Robot is suicidal and high off of some fadeaway. So yeah, those are the 5 books. Let's go ahead and flip to the polls for next week. So of course this is, next week from the time that it drops, but for me, it's quite a while into the future. We have 4 books in total. So we have Absolute Green Lantern, issue number 10, Absolute Superman, issue number 15, which is kind of crazy because I literally just picked up issue number 14 and haven't read through that yet. So maybe an instance where we go back to back. I may stagger that one a little bit. We'll see. Then we have Ultimate Wolverine, issue number 13, and then X-Men finally comes back with issue number 23. So that's it, just those 4. So if you take the 3 plus these 4, gets us obviously to 7, and that's not even a full issue of what I usually do for a review. So pretty perfect time to have kind of a break, if you will, or a little bit of a vacation. So that all works out pretty well. So with that, we'll go ahead and close it out. Thank you so very much for tuning in. You can check the description below in both the video and the podcast, of course. And you can check where the show is available on social media. If you would like to follow it there, please feel free and be my guest. Also have a link down there for buymeacoffee.com/Saturday Morning Review. That is where you can go ahead and help to donate and sponsor the show a little bit monetarily if you would like. All the proceeds would basically go towards buying some comics. So any support there would be really, really appreciated. But with that, I think we'll go ahead and close it out. Thank you so very much for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next one. Go, 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 go.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.